professor in refugee and forced migration studies at the University of East London. So, Giorgia, even if Belarus was always going to do this no matter what and force these people, use them as pawns, try to get them into Lithuania and then Poland, could we not say that still this crisis should not have lasted this long? That whatever Belarus was going to do, these people should not have had to suffer for weeks going on months?
Yes, I agree. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, everybody. I agree that this crisis which is a geopolitical crisis, is not necessarily a migrant crisis, should have ended much sooner with greater cooperation. But it is only one of many crises that we see nowadays in which migrants are being used as political pawns. We can see in the negotiations that you just described that we are witnessing the politics of numbers, how many people are being moved somewhere else, are being deported, etc., or return home. And from the point of view of migrants, this is a humanitarian crisis for those who are at the border, but it's also a broader crisis of humanity for what this geopolitical issue at the border symbolizes.
So Poland absolutely has a point to oppose this kind of action, which has been largely blamed on Belarus, of course. But has Poland handled this properly?
Poland is at the edge of Europe in the same way in which countries in the south of Europe were engaged in a similar kind of crisis. These crises at the border, as I said, are not about individual sovereign countries making decisions, but they're talking about broader geopolitical issues. And this is, from a point of view of Europe, it is a crisis of European policy and governance of migration.
Yeah, but according to international law, you're not supposed to send home people who are seeking asylum. What, if anything, is being done here to address those concerns? Is anyone hearing any of these people's requests for asylum?
Exactly. You just nailed down the fundamental issue here, which is an issue of the rights of asylum, the right to move, the right to have a livelihood. These people have a right to seek asylum. They should not be moved around because of geopolitical interest. Their cases, according to the United Nations High Convention on Refugees, should be heard. There are crises, humanitarian crises. There are people who are fleeing. People are being sent back. According to international conventions, the repatriation should be voluntary. So there are international standards that Poland, the European community, and Belarus and other countries should be upholding in these circumstances. The voices of the migrants. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We've heard from EU officials as well saying that, we see this happening. Well, guess what? Expect to see more of this in the future. Is there anything that can be done to prevent exactly this? Because as you rightly pointed out, this is not your usual migrant crisis.
Well, I think that like many other crises that we have witnessed in the last few decades, whether it's the economic crisis, whether it's the coronavirus, whether it's climate change, these are global crises of an interconnected world. And we are likely to see hotspots recurring over and over again, unless there are kind of global solutions that are being taken. And as your article your piece pointed out, those who are suffering are actually people who are risking their lives, using all their money to try and have a better quality of life.
All right, Giorgia
and trying to flee persecution as well.
I hear you. Okay, Giorgia, thanks so much for joining us.